Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Senators, I rise today on the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation to speak to second reading of Bill S-222. This bill is an important piece of legislation that proposes to amend the Canada Elections Act to expand the franchise to all Canadian citizens aged 16 and 17. I would like to express my appreciation to Senator McPhedran for sponsoring and moving this bill forward. For my entire professional career, and now here in this distinguished chamber, my focus has been the dismantling of systemic barriers and the empowerment of marginalized people. These barriers are often built on arbitrary classifications, be they based on race, sex, gender or gender identity, economic status, or the intersection of such characteristics. What I can tell you without doubt is that such artificial constraints prevent individuals from realizing their potential and contributing fully to our democracy. Today I ask you to consider with me another arbitrary line, the barrier of age 18, often defended as a fixed marker of competence and maturity. This prompts me to wonder what democratic principle can justify telling an entire segment of our population that they are old enough to pay taxes, old enough to work, and old enough to take on these significant responsibilities, yet not old enough to have a voice in shaping the laws that govern their very existence. Bill S-222 is an invitation to us to examine inclusion and resilience in our democracy and to consider the evidence now available to help us answer if the time has finally come in Canada, as it has in democracies such as Austria, Scotland, Wales, and soon England and Ireland, to bring down this barrier and enfranchise our younger citizens to expand voting rights to include 16 and 17-year-olds. Please allow me to tell you why I believe the answer is a resounding yes. My experience working to advance equality has shown me that exclusion is never neutral. When barriers are erected, whether they deny a woman economic self-sufficiency or deny a young person a vote, a powerful, destructive message is broadcast. You do not belong. Your input is not valued. The current voting age is a vestige of a time when the age of majority was tied to military service and property ownership. This is not the reality of modern Canada. When we look at the historical barriers against women, we see that they were upheld by arguments claiming incapacity or immaturity. We dismiss those arguments because we realize that democracy demands inclusion. We are stronger, our laws and policies are better, and our governance is more legitimate when more citizens' voices are heard. Extending the vote to 16 and 17-year-olds is a necessary and logical continuation of our nation's journey toward equality as set out in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms entrenched in our Constitution. This is not about granting a privilege. It is about recognizing a right that is already earned through participation in civic life. They pay income taxes, they contribute to the economy, and they are directly impacted by government decisions on everything from student loan debt and climate policy to their access to health and social services. Arguments against Bill S-222 often revolve around the perceived lack of maturity or political awareness of 16 and 17-year-olds. But I ask you, my colleagues, what is the principle here? Are we truly serving democracy when we define civic competence by a birthday rather than by capacity? Look at the world today. This is a generation that is politically savvy, hyper-aware, and deeply engaged. These young people are not passive observers. They are the architects of global movements. They lead the charge on climate justice. They organize online and offline against racial inequality and systemic discrimination. And they navigate complex digital information environments with an acuity that frankly surpasses many older generations. Furthermore, we must consider the educational component. Research, particularly from jurisdictions where voting rights have been extended, shows that enfranchising high school-age students has a positive, lasting impact on voter turnout. When the voting age aligns with civic education in the classroom, young people are more likely to vote, and they establish a habit of democratic participation that lasts a lifetime. When we say, "You're not ready to vote," we remove the responsibility and the incentive to learn and participate. When we say, "Your vote matters," we empower them to become better citizens. Honorable colleagues, as a nation that proudly adheres to the Westminster parliamentary system, let us look at our peers in the Commonwealth. The argument that Canada must maintain the status quo is increasingly difficult to defend when key members of our own parliamentary family are moving forward. Just this year, the United Kingdom, the historic home of our parliamentary tradition, has committed to lowering the voting age. This is not a radical outlier position. It is the direction of modern, mature democracies. Beyond England, countries and regions within the Commonwealth, such as Scotland and Wales, have already lowered the voting age to 16 for their devolved elections. Malta, a full Commonwealth member, has extended the franchise to 16 for all elections. Austria, Germany, Argentina, and Brazil, the list of democratic nations recognizing the maturity and voting capacity of this age group, is growing. Canada has always prided itself in being a leader in democratic rights. When it comes to the franchise of our youth, we are now in danger of straggling behind. Allow me to share some observations about Vote 16 that have convinced me that Bill S-222 is our chance to inquire, to question, to learn, and to grow our knowledge about democratic participation. Velma Morgan is no stranger to this chamber. She is the chair of Operation Black Vote Canada, dedicated to extending the pipeline for Black political leadership in Canada. Including for youth and marginalized communities. Velma has been clear that youth from historically underrepresented groups, including Black youth, are part of the pool of potential new electors because early voting rights can help build healthy political habits and elevate marginalized voices. As Velma has often said, you can't be what you can't see. We can't continue to have the same type of people, the same type of lived experiences making law and public policy for other people. Operation Black Vote Canada joins many other organizations supporting this bill. These include UNICEF Canada, Samara Centre for Democracy, Laidlaw Foundation, and one that is closest to my heart, the Canadian Women's Foundation, where I was the president and CEO. The Canadian Women's Foundation shares this message about the bill on its website. Count girls and gender-diverse young people in so that when they turn 16, they have more of a voice on the pressing issues that impact their lives: climate change, poverty, discrimination, and more. So as I conclude, honorable senators, Bill S-222 represents progress. It represents our continued commitment to breaking down arbitrary barriers to participation. It represents a trust in the energy, the intelligence, and the passion of the next generation of Canadian leaders. We have an opportunity today to take a crucial step toward building a more robust and more representative and more legitimate democracy. Let us recognize the maturity of these young Canadians. Let us explore the choices made by our Commonwealth peers. Colleagues, I urge you to support the passage of Bill S-222 and allow it to proceed to committee for further study. Merci, miigwech, and thank you.
Senator Osler.
Senator Senior, take a question.
Happy to.
Senator Osler.
Thank you, Senator Senior, for that speech. And in it, you mentioned civic education in the classroom. And I agree that strengthening civic knowledge is necessary to strengthen democracy. But I also note education falls under provincial territorial jurisdiction. Do you know if which provinces and territories have civics curricula in grades 7 through 12? Or is that the type of information we would learn about at committee?
Senator Senior.
Thank you. I couldn't list them for you, but this is one of the things I think we could explore as we get this bill to committee, to make sure that we can understand where it's already existing and even be able to have some sort of measurement of how that's working in terms of participation of 16 and 17-year-olds. But what's also really important to note is that there are mock scenarios during elections for young people who participate. Rock the Vote or other such sort of initiatives have been very active during elections, provincially and federally, and in some cases municipally as well. And so young people have been very engaged in those scenarios.
Senator Hay.
Thank you. Senator, will you take a question?
Senator Hay.
Thank you. So you know I'm probably on a bandwagon now from my background. I have a fundamental belief that nothing for them without them, and that includes young people. And I agree with you, Senator Senior. Young people themselves are already leading. They're involved in every single community in this country. They are in their schools, they're volunteers, they're driving, they're building solutions, they're serving their country as cadets, or they're actively in service for their country, and some of this is even landscape changing. Stats Canada shows that all young people, all young populations, about 8.5 million in Canada, so dropping the age to 16 is fundamentally important. Some are already voting. So my question, in your speech, you noted that when barriers are reinforced and or erected, this message is clear to young people, and I agree. You do not belong. Your input is not valid. Yet our very future is on them. They are our future. So, Senator, rather than what we see now as somewhat platitudes and good education, how do you see empowering young people from the age of 16, coast to coast to coast, which is important, with the right to vote and having a meaningful impact to our future? If you could just expand.
Senator Senior.
Quite a question. Thank you. You know, I have had the opportunity, in fact, I began my career working with young people in communities, particularly in the Greater Toronto area. And I also had the opportunity when I was on campaign trails to work with young people. And I can tell you that they were the most engaged, the most excited, and the most inspiring people, young people to work with. And I think that keeping this barrier in place will serve to lose out on young people from who are already at a stage in their lives where when you capture their attention now, that they will be able to maintain that for a lifetime. I know that within my own sphere of young people I'm engaged with, encouraging them to vote is something that I personally do every year. And it's something that they know Anti-P is going to come with. right, is that I'm going to say, have you voted? I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but have you voted and exercise that right? So now I don't have to do that with all of them. But once the practice is there, then they get involved. But also, if they're not sure, we'll engage in a conversation. And I think that's part of what we're missing, because they have, they're curious, and we need to be able to address.
I'm sorry, Senator Senior, your time has expired. Are you asking for more time to answer that question?
So indulged, yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yes, please.
Do you agree for that question? Do you agree? Is it agreed? Yes, for that question. Yes, Senator Senior, please conclude.
Thank you, colleagues. Yes, so to wrap up my answer, I would love to be able to have a kind of society that embraces young people being fully engaged in our democracy, that will ask the tough questions about the tough issues ahead of us, climate change being one of them, and actually be able to influence public policy for the future that they're going to be living into as well.